This improved version of Kia's third generation Ceed has further sharpened its proposition in the Focus Class family hatchback segment, with smarter looks, extra technology and stronger standards of safety equipment. As before, value continues as a strong suit, and there's an industry-leading warranty. Potentially then, there's a lot to like here.
If you want to better appreciate just why Kia is one of the world's fastest growing automotive brands, you've only got to look at this car, the Ceed family hatchback. The Slovakian factory that builds it only opened its doors in 2006, yet already way over 1.5 million Ceed models have been built. This car is currently in its third generation, a design now thoroughly updated to create the version we'll be briefing you on here. Automotive historians will look back at this model line's originator, the 2006 era first generation Ceed, which then had an apostrophe in its name, as a landmark design, the first to take on the European and Japanese market leaders on their own terms in the volume, focus and Golf-dominated family hatchback sector. Built in the heart of Europe, it was targeted at the heart of the European motor industry, hence the unusual name, a combination of the French abbreviation for European Community, CE, and this car's project title, ED. In Mark 1 ED series guise and in the subsequent second generation JD series design, launched in 2012, it shamed the established players by matching their quality while massively undercutting their prices and offering an astonishingly long 7-year warranty. But times change, and so do market segments. So, in 2018, Kia redesigned this Mark III CD series model with a more athletic look and added more efficient engines and extra technology. Then enhanced the whole package 3 years on, creating the car we're going to look at here. As before, this hatch body style is only one of several sired by the Ceed model line. One is conventional, the Sportswagen Estate, one is trendy, the Ceed SUV, and one just plain unusual, the Ceed shooting brake. But all share rejuvenated engineering, recently brought up to date, and recently embellished with fresh power plants. There's now Smart Stream 48-volt mild hybrid tech for the 1.6-litre CRDI diesel, and a cutting-edge 1.5-litre TGDI petrol power plant too, which is what we have here. Existing owners will notice the exterior upgrades, and inside, plusher versions like the one we have here get a big step forward in media tech. All of which this Kia needs, because since this Mark III model's launch, all of its segment's big hitters have been completely redesigned. But they've also got much more expensive. In the Ceed, you've got Golf, Focus or Astra style technology for much less, plus Kia will give you a more sophisticated suspension setup than you'd find on base versions of those models, and throw in a longer 7-year warranty too. If, having heard that, you're beginning to warm up to this Korean car's proposition, then you'll need the industry's most comprehensive car review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out more. Is it really necessary for a Kia Ceed to be honed at the Nürburgring and feature the kind of dynamic handling engineering CV that you might think more befitting to a serious hot hatch? Many of the thousands of buyers who happily owned a car from this model line in its first 2 generations of life might be ambivalent about such developments. But this effort has been made because going forward, the Ceed must reach out far beyond such relatively undemanding customers, to those who require much more than just practicality and value from their chosen family hatch. If these people can be persuaded to shake their prejudices and try a Ceed, then they may find Kia's marketing slogan, the power to surprise, to have some actual basis in fact. For us, it was the vastly improved way this car steers that was most evident at first. There are no silly variable force settings of the sort that earlier generation Ceeds used to have. Just one feelsome, well-weighted, electrically powered rack that's now 17% more direct and as consistent and progressive as you'd want. as you'd perhaps expect from a drive development team who've been able to draw on experience gained from engineering products as impressive as Kia's Stinger GT and Hyundai's i30N. Then you try a corner, expecting perhaps the same vaguely competent standards of body control and outright grip that have traditionally characterised mainstream Korean products in this segment, and get instead a car that's up for pretty much whatever you can throw at it. You can place this Ceed confidently through the bends and enjoy an eagerness powering out of each turn that's aided by torque vectoring that lightly dabs the front brakes to help tuck the nose in and ease you urgently through the corner. Throughout, there's a sense that the rear wheels are playing a real part in the whole process rather than just grimly hanging on. Better still, this Kia feels sucked to the road, closely following the grade and angle of the tarmac without being unduly influenced by it. In creating this, Kia's engineers stiffened the front springs by 40% and upped the body shell's torsional rigidity by 22%, all of which might sound like a recipe for a pretty unyielding standard of ride. Fortunately though, the front suspension is aided by a damper valve system to absorb smaller vibrations, while the rear spring rate has been relaxed by 10%, absorbing small vibrations and giving this updated Ceed a more relaxed gait at a cruise or over broken road surfaces, which means that you properly get the benefit of this car's properly sophisticated multi-link suspension setup. This kind of engineering is still not as common as it should be amongst family hatchbacks. Many cars in this segment, the Focus and the Golf for instance, fob you off with a crude torsion beam rear suspension setup in their mainstream guises, reserving properly sophisticated multi-link rear springing for the more powerful variants that few customers choose. As it's always done, this Ceed, like its very similarly engineered Hyundai i30 cousin, standardises that multi-link technology right across the range, which is why more serious mid-corner tarmac tears taken at speed that might momentarily throw an ordinary Golf or Focus slightly offline are taken more easily in this Kia's stride. Refinement also gets a tick from us. The Ceed model line's always done well in that regard. Quite a lot of this is down to the work the brand has put in to reduce vibration from its latest generation range of engines, even the diesel ones, which had previously tended to clatter their way through the power band. For this current model, all diesel variants get a timing belt cover and more insulated cylinder block cover, plus an engine undercover and an oil pan cover. That's a bit too much detail, isn't it? But it explains why, in a Ceed CRDI, you don't hear the usual diesel rumble quite as much as you probably would in an equivalent rival. That diesel features Kia's 48-volt EcoDynamics Plus mild hybrid assistance package, with an electric starter generator providing motive assistance when required and charging the battery during braking or coasting. Rather than increasing power or torque, the mild hybrid system is used to smooth out the torque curve and reduce emissions. So, the headline figures of 134 bhp and 280 newton meters remain unchanged, but the driving experience is a little more responsive than before, even if the engine can't be mistaken for anything other than a diesel. 62 miles an hour from rest takes about 10 seconds on the way to a maximum of 124 miles an hour with this black pump fueled unit. Of course, diesel power is assuming less and less importance in mainstream automotive models these days, so it's just as well that this Korean brand also has its advanced TGDI petrol technology to fall back on. This is delivered here in two guises, with the most popular one being the little 998cc 3-cylinder 1-litre TGDI unit that props up the range, producing 118 bhp. It's an efficient and eager little power plant, quite sufficient for the modest needs of most potential Ceed buyers. However, it's also one that, in our experience, has to be worked quite hard to get you moving with any kind of real speed. Doubtless, the quoted performance stats for this variant, 62 miles an hour from rest in 11.2 seconds, on the way to 118 miles an hour, are achievable, but you'd really have to thrash the engine a bit to replicate that claim. Better performance and refinement is why we prefer the 1.5-litre TGDI option we're trying here, which, with the discontinuation of the sporty 1.6-litre GT hot hatch version of the Ceed, is now the most powerful engine on offer in this car. This is a 4-cylinder engine with a useful 158 brake horsepower, but it still manages a set of efficiency figures that are reasonably close to those of the entry-level unit. And thanks to around 40% more pulling power, this power plant is much happier to oblige if you find yourself running a bit late or need to pull out from a junction toot sweet in dense, fast-flowing traffic. 62 miles an hour from rest takes as little as 8.4 seconds en route to 130 miles an hour. That's if you go for the 6-speed manual gearbox that all Ceeds come fitted with as standard. On this pokier petrol model, as on plusher versions of the diesel, there's also the option of Kia's smooth-shifting 7-speed DCT dual-clutch transmission, which lacks steering wheel paddles but comes with an extra drive mode select sport mode that claims to alter throttle, steering and gear shift timings. So, the Ceed remains quiet, stable, feelsome and enjoyable to punt along. You don't get the driving mode system for manual versions that rival Golf and Focus models offer, but somehow you don't really need it. Even if you don't like driving, this Kia claims it has something to offer, or at least top automatic models do. These equipped with a lane following assist system that in highway cruising conditions seamlessly controls your acceleration, braking and steering. For ordinary versions of this car though, the technology's found in more tactile things. You might even bond with this one, and for a family-orientated Kia, that's a big step forward. The original version of this third generation Ceed was a very complete car, but it needed slightly more appealing packaging. Kia doubtless has that sort of thing very much in mind for this Mark III model's eventual replacement, but for the time being, this CD series design required a touch more pavement presence, delivered to some extent here as part of the facelift update. Hatches like these, of course, always look better with sporty trim, but with this one in particular, that makes all the difference. Here, we've got that top-spec GT line trim. If we'd chosen to test a base 2-spec Ceed, you might have already switched off by now. Don't do that, because particularly trimmed like this, the Ceed is actually quite an appealing looking thing. From the side, you get more of a perspective for the bold shoulder line, something even more evident on the alternative Sportswagen Estate version of this model. With this 5-door hatch variant, it's slightly easier to get a feel for the way that the passenger cell sits well back, something further emphasised by this wide rear C-pillar, which gives you the silver-framed upper window line, a sleeker half-moon style shape. It all combines to create the illusion of a longer, larger car. There are short overhangs too. You get this lower panel crease which gives the flanks some shape, and just below there's this smart lower sill trimming strip. All of this drawing your attention to redesigned and rather smart alloy wheels that are either 16 or 17 inches in size. Earlier we referenced the facelift changes made here, which are most noticeable at the front, where the nose section's adorned by Kia's latest logo. Below that, the brand's usual tiger nose grille gains satin upper and lower wing-shaped garnishes. These lower corner cutouts are quite different from before too, particularly on this GT line model, which gains these ribbed outer vents and these twin silver hockey stick shaped strips to decorate the lower air intake. Kia hasn't yet followed the segment trend towards full LED headlamps, but these halogen projection beams are embellished with LED daytime running lights, and front fog lamps are standard across the range. At the rear, the surface between the LED combi lamps has been smoothed to accommodate this sleeker central brand emblem. And those lamps gain a smarter look on this GT line variant. 48 honeycomb-shaped modules surrounded by a red frame, the LEDs in certain rows lighting up sequentially when the driver uses the turn signals. GT line spec also now gets you this glossy black lower diffuser with silver highlights as part of the sportier bumper. And the slashed sections at each corner of the bumper that house the vertical reflectors remain, as does the integrated roof-mounted spoiler, which offers a neat finishing touch. As usual though, what's more important is the stuff you can't see, the stiff K2 platform and body shell that this Mark III model's based around. This allows Kia designers to achieve a 23-kilo weight saving over the previous structure, though all that actually did was to compensate for the weight of the extra safety kit that this third generation model has to carry around. Subtle changes then are the order of the day for the exterior. Now, will that approach be carried forward into the cabin? Pretty much, yes. Again, the extent to which you might be impressed with this car will probably depend on how far up the range you ventured with the version you're sitting in. Entry-level variants don't look very much different at all, but if you can avoid one of those, then your attention will be taken with this smart 10.25-inch touchscreen satellite navigation central screen, a fresh addition as part of this facelift model spec. With this Ceed's identically engineered Hyundai i30 cousin, this has been accompanied by a degree of dashboard digitalisation, but you don't get that here, so old-fashioned but clearly delineated analogue dials continue to be what you view through the three-spoke wheel with its now smarter Kia logo. All of this rather underlines the fact that this dash design feels very much like something from this century's second decade rather than its third. Ergonomically though, there's very little wrong with it, with the centre console angled slightly towards the driver's seat and the dash split into an upper area for this floating style infotainment screen and a lower area which houses the controls for audio functions, heating and ventilation. In recent years, the Korean marque has properly taken on board the fact that European customers often make buying decisions based on cabin ambience, hence the way that top models like this GT line spec variant get really nice touches like this flat-bottomed grey-stitched sports steering wheel and white-stitched seats with white piping, while shiny piano black surfaces abound. Even on lesser variants, you get smart soft-touch dash-top plastics and silvered trim. The end result still can't quite be said to be classily Golf-like. You can't imagine Volkswagen's designers allowing this fake dash-top stitching, but build quality from the Slovakian factory is agreeably tight, certainly more so than in the rival fourth-generation Ford Focus we recently tested. Entry-level trim gives you an 8-inch version of that central monitor, an inch larger than in the pre-facelift model, but otherwise you'll be favoured with this 10.25-inch display. Either screen delivering clear, neat graphics and usefully large flanking shortcut buttons. There's no separate iDrive style control for this display, such as you get in, say, a rival Mazda 3, but we like the clarity this setup brings to the business of accessing the usual features that screens of this kind tend to deliver. There's a choice of two home screen options. One is minimalist with merely temperature, audio settings and navigation on it, or you can swipe across to the usual home screen full of little icons. As you'd expect, this display has the normal navigation, phone, radio and media options, plus the usual Apple CarPlay or Android Auto smartphone features. There's also a climate section, though fortunately not at the expense of physical buttons provided further down this centre stack. The screen climate menu adding useful auto dehumidify and auto defog functions. Kia's also keen you should know that this monitor incorporates their latest Kia Connect services, these providing live information and control of the car via an app. You can access various Kia Connect options via this display too. There's a calendar, weather reports and info on vehicle diagnostics. This links through to the Kia Connect app supplied for your smartphone, via which you can set up a whole range of preferences in using your Ceed, things like navigation, radio and Bluetooth preferences, all of which the car will greet you with every time the ignition is turned on. There's plenty else on this screen too, like incorporated Kia Live services that alert you to traffic hold-ups and provide accurate information on filling station and car park locations. We're not so keen on the included cloud-based natural language voice recognition setup, which offers to tell you things like whether it's raining in London, but can't apparently manage something as basic as finding you a favourite radio station. There are, though, some really nice extra screen touches we do like here. An icon that allows you to record voice memos, for instance, so if you think of something while you're driving that you don't want to forget, you don't have to reach for your phone or stop and write it down. And a quiet mode that switches off the rear speakers so that you can use the audio system at the same time as allowing kids in the back to drift off to sleep. We also like the valet mode that, linked to the Kia Connect app, allows you to monitor the location of the car when you're not using it. We mentioned the instrument cluster earlier. The dials are separated by a 4.2-inch SuperVision colour cluster display, basically a small trip computer screen with various sections. The road options give you an attention level monitor and a drive assist graphic. The car section has a digital speedo and various trip computers with an econometer, and the nav section has a compass and can relay navigational instructions. Getting comfortable is easy thanks to plenty of seat and wheel adjustment, though lumbar support is missing from the driver's seat of volume variants. And you only get this centre console storage box and its associated sliding armrest if you avoid entry-level trim. Frontward visibility is expansive thanks to these thin A-pillars. Not so good though is rearward visibility thanks to the small rear screen and thick pillars behind the rear doors that block your view throughout tight parking manoeuvres. Kia's apparently aware of this, which is why a rear view camera is included across the range, and rear parking sensors come as standard above entry-level trim. Cabin practicality is reasonable. The glove box is big, though the door pockets, which have angled bottle holders, could be bigger. This compartment ahead of the gear stick has a bank of media sockets just above, a 12-volt plus twin USB-A ports. The brand has also remembered to include an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, and you get ticket clips in the sun visors. And overall, well, of course, it isn't perfect. There are more buttons than we're used to seeing in a cabin of this kind these days, and cheaper plastic panels have been used in areas like the base of the centre console. But broadly, there's really not too much to criticise here because, by and large, the detail stuff's been really well thought through. So, latches operate with a quality click, handles slide back with a damped sigh, and you get thoughtful touches like discreet lighting around the USB and aux in ports. Kia has also thankfully now dispensed with the chintzy little musical chime that you used to get on this Mark III model when leaving the car. Instead, you get a useful drive information screen and a message to check the rear seats. On startup, there's a neat system check screen too. Time to take a seat in the back. Now, when you pull back this wide opening door, you might notice that the roof height's fairly low. But Kia compensated for that in this Mark III model with a 16mm lowering of the seating position. The original version of this third generation Ceed offered a useful step forward in rear cabin space compared to earlier models thanks to a 34mm increase in shoulder room. Even today, the total 1,406mm figure is still one of the best in the class. That, along with this notably low centre transmission tunnel, means that this Kia can more comfortably accommodate 3 rear adults than many of its segment rivals. Not so good is the legroom, though it's certainly class competitive, and one 6-footer can just about sit behind another in reasonable comfort, aided by these scalloped seat backs. 3 kids should be perfectly happy here. All variants get this rear centre armrest with its incorporated twin cup holders, plus seat back pockets. Rather meanly though, the more affordable versions unfortunately miss out on these twin centre vents, and no variant in the range gets a USB port to enable backseat folk to connect up, which is a bit of an omission in this day and age. You have to do without individual overhead lights too, but there are decently sized door bins with bottle holders, plus you get coat hooks in the overhead grab handles. We'll finish as usual with a look at the boot. Now, it turns out to be 395 litres in size. That's less than you'd get from a Skoda Octavia, a Honda Civic or a Peugeot 308 in this segment, but it's around 15 to 20 litres more than you get from a class favourite like a Golf or a Focus. This area is deep and regularly shaped, plus useful touches include a couple of bag hooks, this left-hand retaining strap and 4 chromed tie-down points. There are useful recessed areas in each corner, and on plusher models you get this 12-volt socket as well. The useful dual-height boot floor you have to pay extra for on that competing Focus hatch is here supplied across the range as standard. And there's lots of space beneath it too, though only because Kia now declines to fit any sort of spare wheel. It's also easy to get bulky stuff in. This Mark III Ceed has always been good in that regard, thanks to an 87mm reduction in sill height over the previous model. Unfortunately, though, you don't get the ski hatch for longer items provided on most versions of this model's Hyundai i30 cousin. Opt for the boxier sport wagon estate, and the luggage area size grows to 625 litres, while on the stylised Pro Ceed shooting brake model, it's 594 litres. If you need more space and want to push forward the 60/40 split rear backrest, you'll find that the 1,291 litre capacity freed up in this hatch model still isn't quite as large as you might hope. That relatively low roof height had to tell somewhere. Now, if that's an issue, there's always the sport wagon estate, of course, which offers 1,694 litres of capacity with the seats folded. This Ceed might not be quite the bargain it once was, but Kia reckons that it still offers an awful lot for your money, despite prices creeping up a little again with the facelift of this third generation model. At the time of this test in early 2022, asking figures for this hatch variant were starting just north of £20,000 and climbing to around £27,500, which is about £1,500 more above the level Kia was asking when last we tested this Mark III Ceed in its original form back in 2018. Even so, Kia still reckons to undercut obvious rivals by around 10%, a claim largely borne out by list price study. There are 3 trim levels, 2, 3, or, as in this case, sporty GT line. We should point out that this 5-door hatch isn't the only Ceed body style on offer. Opt for the alternative sports wagon estate version of this Kia, and you'll be looking at a premium of around £700. Alternatively, the closest match to this Ceed hatch that you'll find in your local Kia showroom is the X-Ceed SUV, a separate crossover body style which shares the same engineering and is priced from just over £21,000. Think in terms of around £1,100 more over an equivalently powered Ceed hatch. Finally, if you're looking towards the top of the Ceed range at a plusher variant like this test car, you might also want to consider the sportier Pro Ceed body style, which is a kind of shooting brake, a coupe-like station wagon. The Pro Ceed comes only with the GT line trim levels and the brand's more powerful engines. In like-for-like comparisons with this hatch, think of needing around £1,100 more for one of those. This is the only really powerful variant in the Ceed lineup these days, following the demise of the Ceed GT hot hatch. We'll focus here on this 5-door hatch variant, the one most buyers will want, and delve a little deeper now into the range pricing structure. If you need to try and keep your outlay as close as possible to a £20,000 price point, then you'll have to stick to the 3-cylinder 1-litre T GDI petrol engine in entry-level 2 spec. The 1.6-litre CRDI 48-volt mild hybrid diesel is also available in 2 specification, but requires a further £2,000. In both cases, manual transmission is your only option. If you've the funds to stretch to the top 3-spec or GT line levels of trim, think around £24,000 upwards, then you'll have the choice of either the 1.5T GDI petrol engine we're trying here, or for around £1,000 more, you can opt for that 1.6-litre CRDI 48-volt mild hybrid diesel. In either case, you'll be offered the opportunity of finding just under £1,800 more for DCT auto transmission. Enough with range structure, let's move on to consider the value proposition that mainstream model Ceed pricing represents across the range. Previous generation versions of this Kia offered old-tech petrol engines at the foot of the lineup that allowed the brand to delve down right into budget brand territory with this car. There's none of that now, or not in our market anyway, but it's still difficult to better this Kia's value proposition in this class. Perhaps the Ceed's Korean cousin, the Hyundai i30, is its closest competitor. Under the skin, the two cars are virtually identical, with the i30 typically costing around £1,000 more. However, the Kia is the only one of the pair to offer a diesel powertrain. Both these two Korean models are gunning for the 3 segment sales leaders, the Ford Focus, the Vauxhall Astra and the Volkswagen Golf, all of which these days are quite a lot more expensive than this Kia. With the Focus and the Astra, the like-for-like difference is around £3,000. Against a Golf, the difference is more like £4,000. Talking of the Golf, you might also be considering two other Volkswagen Group mainstream family hatchbacks in this sector that use its technology, Seat's Leon and Skoda's Octavia. These both retail at £1,500 to £2,000 more, depending on variant. You'll also need a bit more for potential rivals in this segment, like Peugeot's 308, Honda's Civic, the Mazda 3, Renault's Megane and Citroën C4, and quite a lot more for Toyota's Corolla, because it has to be had as a full hybrid. Even the segment's usual bargain basement option, the Fiat Tipo, costs about the same as the Ceed these days. That Italian contender's reach somewhat limited because it's only available in a single hatch body style with a single 1-litre petrol engine. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is this Kia that you really want in this class, then you're going to need to know just how generous the brand has been when it comes to the standard spec. So let's see. Even volume 2 spec trim level, the entry point for the Ceed range, gives you a pretty reasonable amount. That includes 16-inch alloy wheels, front fog lights, tinted glass, automatic headlamps with high beam assist, LED rear lamps, a body-coloured rear spoiler and an alarm, plus neat touches like a front wiper de-icer. Inside, as you'd expect, there's air conditioning, driver's seat height adjustment and leather trim for the steering wheel, gear knob and handbrake. There's also cruise control with a speed limiter, a variable height boot floor and some significant electronic camera-driven safety features that some more budget-minded rivals will charge you more for. Now, we'll talk about those in more detail in a few minutes. Infotainment at this level is taken care of by an 8-inch colour touchscreen audio display, which comes with voice control and is your access point for a 6-speaker DAB audio setup, a reversing camera, Bluetooth and Apple CarPlay or Android Auto smartphone mirroring. And there's a 4.2-inch SuperVision colour cluster display in the instrument cluster. And of course, there's an app. There's always an app, isn't there? This one's called Kia Connect, and it allows users' smartphones to remotely access vehicle information such as trip data and statistics, vehicle location, and vehicle lock status. Users can also check and change their vehicle settings directly from their smartphone, including navigation, radio and Bluetooth preferences. And as part of the app, customers can additionally access a last-mile navigation feature, which once the car is parked, will help them navigate to their final destination on foot via either Google Maps or augmented reality guidance on their smartphone. You can use the same system to help you find your parked car once you're ready to return to it. And there's a valet mode on the app that enables customers to monitor their vehicle remotely when it's being driven by someone else, which will offer added peace of mind if you've allowed your teenage son or daughter to borrow the key to your Ceed. OK, so that's covered off what you get with base 2 spec trim. Now, what about if you can afford to spend a little more on your Ceed? Well, if so, you'll find that the next trim level in the hierarchy, the mid-range 3 spec, gains quite a lot. This plusher spec is recognisable by its 17-inch wheels, rear privacy glass, and it contains a smarter cabin courtesy of faux leather for the seat bolsters and door trim, along with various interior garnishes in satin chrome and black high gloss. At 3 spec level, you also gain rain-sensing front wipers, power folding mirrors, a dual horn, rear parking sensors, smart cruise control and a drive mode select driving mode system. And inside, you get a much larger 10.25-inch touchscreen satellite navigation central screen with Kia Connect connectivity. Plus, there's dual automatic air conditioning, a wide view driver's door mirror, an auto-dimming rear view mirror, an electronic parking brake, rear vents, height adjustment for the front seat, an auto defog system and a 12-volt socket in the boot. Plus, you get a centre console with a storage box and sliding armrest and powered front seat lumbar support and height adjustment for the front seat too. At the top of the range lies the GT line trim level we're trying here, adding more sporty trimming touches inside and out. There's a more dynamic theme here with darker 17-inch wheels and high gloss black trimming for the radiator grille, the door mirrors and the rear spoiler. Inside you get aluminium pedals, plus there's heat for the front seats and for the steering wheel, which is D-shaped with grey stitching. On to options. Now, as usual with Kia, there aren't that many. The brand believing that customers will prefer to move up a trim level rather than go box ticking. Your dealer will, though, sell you practical items like mudguards, fixed or detachable tow bars and carpet mats. If you specify the steel or aluminium roof bars, you can add a ski carrier, a bike carrier or a roof box. And to add to the look and usability of your Ceed, there are tailgate and rear bumper trim packages, door handle protection foils, side door mouldings and door mirror caps. And if you're an extrovert sort, you can add body decals in white, red or black. For the boot area, you can add a trunk liner, a reversible trunk mat, a rear bumper protection foil, LED trunk and tailgate lights. And for the cabin, you can add puddle lights and footwell illumination. Bear in mind too that you'll almost certainly have to pay extra for your chosen paint colour. The only standard one is solid machine bronze. Even white costs extra, and this test car's smart orange fusion finish can only be had with this top GT line level of trim. Both the colours just mentioned are freshly added to this facelifted range, and the wheel designs are different too, but if you happen not to like them, various alternative 16 and 17-inch alloy wheel styles are available too. Let's finish with a perusal of the safety stuff on offer, which remains an area where this Kia continues to easily meet the class standard. And when this Mark III Ceed was first introduced, it was quite rare in the segment to find a full set of camera safety features fitted right across the range. But this CD series design has always had them. Kia's made a few little tweaks to the roster for this facelifted model. The main change is that the driver attention warning system has been updated to include leading vehicle departure alert tech, which provides a visual alert on the screen to inform the driver that the vehicle in front is driving away, such as at traffic lights or in slow-moving traffic. Otherwise, it's pretty much as you were, which means that the really advanced safety tech is still limited to the pricier Pro Ceed models. But let's focus on what you can have with the hatch and sports wagon body styles. Now, as you'd expect these days, autonomous braking, Kia calls its system Forward Collision Avoidance Assist, is standard, but on base 2-spec models you have to pay an extra £250 for an optional ADAP pack to have it embellished with cyclist detection. Otherwise, all the camera safety basics are included across the range, like high beam assist to automatically dip your headlights for you at night, and a lane keeping assist system which alerts you if you're drifting over lane delineating lines. For automatic models, there's also a lane keeping assist system which alerts you if you're drifting over lane delineating lines, with lane following assist which uses a camera to keep the car centred in lane and works between 0 and 81 miles an hour. If you avoid entry-level trim, you also get smart cruise control that'll not only automatically keep you a safe distance behind another vehicle on the highway, but can even slow you right down to a stop and start you off again if you come across a tailback. All the usual passive safety features make the team sheet too, of course. There are twin front, side and curtain airbags, though no driver's knee bag. Plus, ISOFIX rear child seat fastenings and active front head restraints that prevent whiplash. As usual with the Kia, there's the brand's VSM or Vehicle Stability Management System, which ensures stability when braking and cornering by controlling the car's ESC or Electronic Stability Control System if it detects a loss of traction. In addition, as usual with a family hatch of this kind, there's tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist control to stop the car rolling backwards as you pull away on inclines. As you'd also now expect, in this segment, the ABS anti-lock brakes are aided in panic stops by a brake assist feature, plus an emergency stop signal that flashes the hazard lights to warn following motorists. So the stats look okay. According to the official WLTP figures, the 3-cylinder 1-litre T-GDI petrol engine that most customers will choose with this Ceed returns up to 54.3 mpg on the combined cycle and a best of 119 grams per kilometre of CO2. To give you some segment perspective, that's a bit better than you get from an equivalent 1-litre petrol Focus or Golf in this class. The Ceed's not quite so frugal with this test car's more powerful 4-cylinder 1.5T GDI petrol unit, of course, up to 49.6 mpg and 129 grams per kilometre, but that's still a reasonable showing. And an econometer display in the instrument cluster helps you monitor your frugality on an ongoing basis. We'd expected mild hybrid tech to be fitted to both petrol units in this car, given that Kia's mechanically almost identical segment cousin, the Hyundai i30, now features that. From the launch of this updated Ceed, though, Kia limited this electrified embellishment to the 1.6-litre CRDI diesel model, which in manual form manages 64.2 mpg on the combined cycle and 115 grams per kilometre of CO2. In future, you can expect to see this EcoDynamics Plus system to spread to the green pump variants. So we should brief you on how this 48-volt package tinsels that black pump unit with a tiny lithium-ion battery that just about justifies the electrified hybrid marketing spiel. Unlike a self-charging full hybrid engine, the sort of thing you'd get in this class on, say, a Toyota Corolla, and the sort this Kia itself offers on HEV petrol versions of its comparably sized Sportage SUV, the mild hybrid diesel engine fitted to a diesel Ceed can't ever run independently on battery power. Instead, with this kind of setup, a belt-driven integrated starter generator replaces the standard alternator and enables the recovery and storage of energy usually lost during braking and coasting to charge a tiny 48-volt lithium-ion air-cooled battery pack. The starter generator also acts as a motor, integrating with the engine and using the stored energy it harvests to provide extra pulling power during normal driving and acceleration, as well as running the vehicle's electrical auxiliaries and helping the power plant's stop-start system in urban traffic. Another advantage of having the 48-volt system on the diesel is that it's enabled Kia to offer its clever IMT clutch-by-wire intelligent manual transmission setup. This decouples the engine from the gearbox after the driver releases the accelerator, allowing the car to enter into two possible levels of coasting depending on the conditions, the first leaving the engine idling and the second turning it off completely. What else might you need to know? Likely residual values? Well, they're a lot higher than they used to be on mainstream Kia models. Independent experts reckon that after 3 years and 36,000 miles, your Ceed will still be worth around 45% of what you originally paid for it, depending on the variant you select. When it comes to servicing, the petrol variants need regular garage visits every 12 months or 10,000 miles, while the diesel doubles that mileage to 20,000. And as usual with the Kia, you can budget ahead with prepaid servicing plans, courtesy of the brand's Care 3 package that offers a fixed price deal covering your first 3 garage visits, a package that can be extended to include 5 visits if you go for the upgraded Care 3 Plus option. In addition, a customer can now purchase services up to and including the 7th one, so matching the full length of the warranty. Whatever plan you go for, you can also bundle an MOT test in with it, and on that basis, you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that virtually all maintenance costs will probably have been covered for the entire time that your name will be on the logbook. An even stronger buying incentive is the much trumpeted 7-year or 100,000 mile warranty, which, like the Care 3 servicing packages, is transferable to future owners. However, it is worth pointing out that the warranty only offers unlimited mileage for the first 3 years you own the car. Thereafter, you'll have a 100,000 mile restriction. If in future the car is sold through a Kia used approved dealership when less than 18 months old, or with less than 18,000 miles on the clock, the warranty will be topped up to match that of a new model. And finally, well, you might also want to note that roadside assistance cover is limited to 1 year, but you do get a long 12-year bodywork warranty. As for insurance, well, groupings start at Group 8E for a 1-litre T GDI petrol model. It's Group 12 or 14E for the 1.6-litre CRDI 48-volt diesel, and Group 15 or 16E for this 1.5-litre T GDI petrol power plant, depending on the spec you select. There will still be people, of course, who will blindly buy a Focus, a Golf or some other family hatchback from a conventional mainstream brand without considering its Korean alternative. But these will largely be uninformed folk yet to fully cotton on to the way that products in this segment have changed. Thanks to the continuing success of this Ceed model line, there are fewer and fewer customers of this kind around. Of course, shortlist selection isn't the same as a sale. There are family hatch folk who'll want more powerful engines or more dynamic handling than this car can offer. But we'd suggest many more will enjoy this Kia's sharp looks, impressive quality, strong safety standards and low running costs. It's not perfect, of course. The next generation Ceed will probably be a big step forward from this one, primarily in areas like electrified engines, driver assist technology and cabin media. But it'll also probably be a lot more expensive, as nearly all this current car's competitors are. There's a reason for that, of course. We'd still rate the rival Ford Focus as best in class to drive, and there's also something very solid and pleasing about the way a Golf goes down the road. But this Ceed's now within touching distance of these two class leaders. It's the first mainstream Kia model we've genuinely looked forward to driving. This update of the model line addresses some of the criticisms we've levelled at it in its original form. We'd like to have seen more done to benefit the most affordable variants, but if you can afford a version with the updated cabin screen tech, then you'll feel that you've a relatively cutting-edge product, even though the digital dash tech and really advanced driver assist features you'll find in some rivals are missing. And in summary, well, Kia these days produces more advanced and avant-garde models than this. Take the comparably sized Sportage SUV, for instance. But the Ceed, though, remains the company's third bestseller for a reason. It's a confident design from a very confident brand, and we think you might like it.